Hello and welcome to another week of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby, and we're in November. I cannot believe how quickly it feels like time is going. Today, I'm recording this podcast on Election Day, so hopefully, you all got out there and exercised your right to vote. I did that this morning, and of course, it is unfortunately volatile times, and hopefully we can work toward unity, but that's something that's going to take a while, I suppose. But we are in November, and of course, we shouldn't be just thinking of giving and generosity in this month because of Thanksgiving coming up, but of course it's natural. We follow the calendar, and we'll hear about different food drives and donations needed, especially this time of year. But as I said, it would be great if we could contribute what we can throughout the year, whenever we can. So this week, my guest, I often like to talk about how I know my guest, and this is one of those rare occasions where I've never actually met my guest, but it was through a connection. Mary Raypatch is someone that I know from doing, we do comedy together, and we've done some work at Scranton Improv. So Mary recommended, I was lining up different guests, and she said, you know who you should talk to? So she suggested that I talk to my guest today. It's Kristen Kozin, who is and I forget the title wrong, Kristen can correct me, Executive Director of Meals on Wheels, Community Services of Northeastern Pennsylvania, and she oversees the space at Olive. So welcome, Kristen.
Well, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. And so is it executive director? I mean, I'm sure you're not hung up
Yes.
on titles, but I want to get it
No,
right.
not at all. But yes, executive director is fine. Yes.
Okay. So I want to get into all the great things that you guys, I've known about your organization for a long time. I know you do great work in Northeast PA. I want to talk about how the community can help, what's going on. But first, if we could, just for the listeners to get to know a little bit about you, I know before I hit record, you said that you've actually been in this position now for about 7 years,
Yes.
there at Meals on Wheels. Are you from the area? What led you to this position? Just tell us a little bit about you, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem. I was actually born and raised for the most part in Wilkes-Barre. I graduated from Wilkes-Barre Catholic schools, two of which technically don't exist anymore. St. Aloysius Grade School and Bishop Hoban High School, which is now consolidated into Holy Redeemer. I then actually graduated from King's College. But in that time, I did study abroad in Austria, specifically in Innsbruck and Vienna, and I went to graduate school in Europe, and I ended up getting married and came back to the East Coast, and I actually landed in the Metro Baltimore, Washington area, and my degrees and studies are in business and international relations, and I ended up working in Washington, D.C. as a young married professional. And I realized very, very quickly, having had a kind of growing up in that service, the idea of service was very, very important in my family. Just from both sides, my grandmothers were very influential in that. But I also always volunteered for churches and for CEO in Wilkes-Barre all throughout high school and college. And I did quite a bit. And I realized that, I could use my powers for good, not necessarily evil. And when you spend a year or two I kind of accidentally became a lobbyist in DC, and I didn't feel really good about myself at the end of the day. And so I ended up, long story short, I realized that I really have a professional and personal desire to really provide for the basic needs of human beings. And I feel that strongly the economic base and potential for growth and the road to equality and true civil rights for all people is based around the idea that you have to provide for the basic needs. When you can't feed yourself or clothe yourself or house yourself, how do you grow? How do you become a productive member of society? How do you help fight for others and really help build up communities. So I ended up, I'm an expert in affordable housing, which is a type of real estate development that focuses on the construction or preservation of affordable housing based on income. So I am an expert in that, and I ended up just by kind of luck and my second husband, and this position kind of came to me, and I thought it was a right, it fit all my criteria. And so I'm in my 8th year. I just finished my 7th fiscal year. And so we are now, heading to that 10-year mark.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. So a couple things I want to say in common. Okay, most of my schools are gone.
Right.
Similarly, Holy Rosary, yeah. Bishop Hannon has merged. I think it's Holy Cross. It would, with
Probably, yeah.
Bishop O'Hara and Dunmore, one of those deals. And I taught part-time for about 7 years at King's College. So, and I'm doing some work with folks down there around removing stigma around opioid use. So great institution there. Wonderful. What a great background. So you got to study in Europe.
Yes.
That, and I do want to get to all the stuff you have going on Meals on Wheels, but it's such an interesting journey. You had all this unique experience before you came back here to the area, which I think is wonderful. What was that like for you attending school there? And then also the whole idea of working in such a busy area in DC and Baltimore before returning back to Northeast PA.
I adore Eastern Europe, Western and Eastern Europe, but specifically the eastern part of Western Europe. My child is half Austrian, but half Viennese, because the Viennese are a special type of Austrians, we always say. But I absolutely there's an idea of kind of a social collaborative or collective. I hate to use, especially on a day like today where I'm trying, we all want to be, as it is election day, as you said. But there's an idea of a social fabric that really creates the sense of community. And I'm a coffee lover, and so that type of, you often hear about the Parisian cafe culture, and I will argue that Vienna does it better and does it times 1,000. But this idea of this walkable life was very pedestrian, in the sense that there was access to transportation. Again, those basic needs being provided for, and then you build the infrastructure around it to improve your quality of life. So I think unknowingly that experience affected what I did, in the later years. And I absolutely love Baltimore and Washington. I do a lot of work still, helping people in that area, but I always had a fondness for Baltimore. It kind of reminds me of the Philly, a little scrappiness to it. And it has that row house. It reminds me as like an Eagles fan, and you get kind of I always say it's kind of like a Southern Philly. And I really loved being kind of a small fish in a big pond with a lot of other really smart fishes. And we all kind of work together, and having the leader of the free world like 5 blocks from where you would work or do stuff. And that, I think it keeps, while most people would say no, I think it keeps those of us with humility. It keeps you a little bit even humbler, because the next person next to you is fighting for something similar, but they may be smarter than you and a more experience or a different experience. And there was a respect and appreciation. And I think, 11 years later, 12 years later, almost, I still don't like driving. I hate the fact that I have to drive so every day. 81, like I just dread it. I miss that pedestrian thing, but I love being near my family. And I think this is a great area that has so much potential for even more human growth and economic growth. And we're so well located. I can't wait. You hear about the train coming.
Yes.
I like, that's it's so exciting. Um, and my family is here, and I got to be here in my grandparents' final years. And so all of that stuff, you can't, I don't think there's a price tag you can put on those experience. And I'm still close. I could go down and see my former colleagues and my friends, so I like being here. There's some, things still adjusting. Um, Especially in this time of year, traffic and weather and all that stuff. It affects you a little bit more when you can't hop on a train or a subway,
Yeah.
so I think one day I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be okay with snow tires. I don't know when that's gonna be, but you figure maybe by the time I retire, I'll be good with it. I don't know.
Well, I agree with what you said on many things. I mean, have lived in Scranton my whole life, and a part of me wishes I mean, I've traveled, but I've not lived elsewhere, and there's part of me that does miss that. But I have always been a fan of this region, the people. I think there are great people here. There's great talent. Of course, we have our problems, our issues, and to the point about pedestrian, I wish we could work on that, because as someone I run out there, and it's like it's not always pedestrian friendly. I mean, getting
No.
around the city, and sometimes I almost feel like the some of the drivers want to run you over. But so we do need to
Right.
work on that, and I hope that train comes because we've been hearing about that for a long
Oh,
time here in Scranton.
feel like we were like writing letters as grade schoolers to Harrisburg about it. Like it's probably a way false memory. Um, like that's triggered by just wanting that so badly. But yeah, it's an interesting, and I'm probably one of those frustrated drivers that because like I just don't like to drive anymore. I just
I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes me actually, I don't travel like I used to visiting friends that live far because I get driving anxiety and I can't stand it. It makes me feel so old and limited, like without freedom, but it happens, so
it
a train
does.
would be great. Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Just feels like, yeah, because we're so close and it's like you could see it. You can look on a map and you could see it. And um, I don't know. I just think that diversity and access and like getting, our kids and our elderly and our being able to have that kind of a different way to see places that we're a little bit restricted on right now. It's a little, and we're in some trying times economically and with the labor market. And so I love to advocate for things that provide access and really help others observe different realities
Yeah.
than what their daily, because I always say, listen, daily life is an exercise in moderation and boredom, right? Like,
Wow. I have never heard that. That's very interesting. Now I'm going to be thinking about that later.
right, right. Once you get it in there, it's going to be hard to get rid. So I apologize in advance.
That's a great way to look at it though. But I love the aspect of what you're saying to open people up to different things. I think the more that we can do that, I think the more we'd probably get along, that's what it takes to learn
Yeah.
about other people's experiences. On that note, I'd like to ask you, tell us a little bit about, I mean, I know people probably think when they hear Meals on Wheels, it's delivering food to people who are homebound, but I know you guys do more than that. And then you also have something called the Space at Olive. First, tell us about what's going on at Meals on Wheels, if there is something specific we can help with now, and then what it is that you do throughout the year. And I know you do a lot, so I know that's a big, big thing to fill.
So we've Meals on Wheels of Northeastern Pennsylvania was one of the very first um agencies that was created to satisfy the federal mandates under the Older Americans Act. So that act really provided for the needs of the greatest generation. It was really about honoring and respecting and having these, as our population ages and we as a government and a community provide for that. So currently we serve over 1,500 clients. We provide meals directly to clients in their homes or to other agencies in 4 counties. We are based in Lackawanna County, as you said, in Scranton. But we provide meals to clients in Wyoming County, in Luzerne County, and we partner with Pike, Wayne, and Monroe County and assist with their home delivered meal programming. So in addition to that, so we have this, as you mentioned the space at Olive, we have this 50,000 square foot building in downtown Scranton, or what I like to say is extended downtown Scranton. We're almost there. Let's extend that downtown. And we have a full production commercial kitchen. We have a staff of 30 plus hundreds of volunteers, and they help and they really implement this kind of robust set of programming that's developed around providing not only for that basic need, which is that meal for that person who is through no fault of their own and through all of this set of conditions, whether that's age or disability or lack of transportation, they can't provide for their basic needs. So we provide this meal. In addition, we provide pet food for, almost 100 clients every month, because we want to reduce that food sharing, and animals are emotional support. I mean, we call them our girls and boys, our family pets. I call the deer and the bear my outside my kids. So they have quite a fondness for our furry friends. So we provide pet food service. We're also expanding and partnering with our friends at the NAPA Pet Collaborative, which is, administered and run in partnership with the Scranton Area Community Foundation, to provide respite services when clients with pets go into a healthcare facility and we need to help foster or identify or transport pets, either whether that's to the vet or to a temporary foster or to find placement in the sad event that a client passes away, and then just help with all of that. So that's very exciting. Also, we have a great set of community health initiatives, which include our CHOMP meal program, and we partner with the medical students at the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine, and we do we do everything. We do some personal care, light personal care, housekeeping, visits. So we have staff and volunteers who do that. The medical students do health intakes and surveys and visits and help identify things such as fall risks or change in mental condition, change in physical, and help assist clients who are isolated, really, so they have someone to talk to who, we don't always want to call our doctor, or we don't have the way to call our doctor, or busy, or if you're isolated, it's an anxiety inducing thing. So that program is incredibly close to my heart, and that was the brainchild of our senior director of programming, Lindsay Skripka, almost 5 years ago now. And so that's incredibly successful. We also provide meals for those coming out of hospital who may live alone, where preparing their own food is prohibitive due to their mobility in their recuperation or rehabilitation. So those are all kind of the basics. And then it's holiday time, right? So we also help with the Friends of the Poor. We provide, we'll help prepare meals to be delivered to the nursing homes and care facilities for the Christmas and winter holidays and some of the spring holidays. we do a blanket and gift drive for our clients. So all of our 750 plus clients of our who receive meals directly from ourselves, not necessarily our partners, we do a blanket and gift. So it's socks and toiletries. That we desperately need those, the word search. Everybody loves those. The word search books. You can get them at the dollar store.
I've been giving those to my parents who are my dad's 85, my
Yes.
mom's 77. I didn't honestly in the beginning, I didn't think my mom would do it because she gets bored. They have been doing them now for like a year. They love them.
Right. And so we need all of those, and we put them in gift bags, and we deliver them as a holiday gift so that our clients, they get a piece of the holiday when, many of them don't have family either in the area, or it's difficult for travel, or they simply can't. They're isolated, and they may be the last of their family that's still alive. So that's a very exciting time. So we love everyone's support of that. They could visit our Facebook page or our website. Just Google Meals on Wheels of Community Services of NEPA, and we'll pop right up. Same thing in Facebook. And so that's a really important initiative at this time of year. And then we also just encourage everybody to donate on Giving Tuesday. I I always say, so we have Thanksgiving on Thursday, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and then I say sleep Sunday. We just sleep on Sunday. And then we have Cyber Monday, but Giving Tuesday, don't be too tired for Giving Tuesday. Give to whomever you feel comfortable giving to. But this time of year, those of us providing the basic needs, so, for those heating bills and food and shelter and clothing, and it's extra important because it's very tough this time of year.
So
So
Giving Tuesday is the day after Monday.
right.
So it's right
Yep.
after. And then that's a Northeast PA initiative. Is that through the Scranton Area Foundation?
That's national.
Oh,
Giving
it's national. Okay.
Yep. Your thing, NEPA gives is the
Oh, June. Right.
June. That's our local.
Okay.
So yeah, in Giving Tuesday, I love NEPA gives. They do such a Scranton Area Foundation does such a great job with that. And so Giving Tuesday is kind of like a reminder after you just spent 5 days shopping to maybe take a little portion of what you have left if you do. And I understand it's trying times. So $8, $9 helps us provide a meal. And quite frankly, with inflation and the supply chain issues and the fuel costs, I wish it wasn't such a difficult year still. I felt like we were kind of coming out of it in late 21, and now we're kind of back in that, unfortunate, as you said, trying times.
Yeah.
I don't have to expound too much on that. It's just, it's a struggle sometimes. So
Yeah, for sure. So for the Giving Tuesday, it is national. Do they go to one website or do they just go to your website and they can donate there?
you could donate to either through our Facebook page or our website, and you could donate 365 days a year on our website. We have a donate button. We make it really easy. And then any organization, you should be able to donate through their, I really encourage everybody to donate as they can for organizations that speak to them. And I think Giving Tuesday is just a nice reminder to do it. It's
Yes.
kind of like it's kind of like a worldwide calendar event that somebody set for us, so we didn't forget. Which
Hey,
if I don't
that's
have a
great.
calendar for event, forget it.
No, and hey, we have Cyber Monday, right? So it's all about
Right?
like spend, 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 consumerism. Okay, and let's give as well, which is a
Yep.
good thing. So they can donate, which is great, like you said, even covering the cost of a meal. But let's say locally, we can also contribute by giving to those things you mentioned earlier too, like the blankets, right? The socks, brand new items like that that can be handed out around the holidays. Those are a need as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's blankets, socks, toiletries, all of those things. Um, when we provide those give, it just makes such a difference. But it's that general need too, and all those, the friends of the poor, the missions. This time of year, we want to, with the cold in the winter, we do have a winter. We have 4 seasons in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I think it's a reminder that warmth is both an actual physical need, but it's also that mental concept of providing somebody warmth.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great time of year because I think it's a reminder for us to check on our neighbors and check on our, those organizations, etc.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I love this time of year. It's my favorite time of year.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mentioned earlier, I'm working with Kings on this project around removing the stigma around opioid use. And I'm learning so much about addiction and about the seriousness of it. But there was a gentleman who's an author and he's been through it, Johan, I forget the last name, but Johan, he does TED Talks and he's kind of known for his quote of saying the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection.
Yes.
And I mean, I love that. But what you're referring to, the warmth, there's connection. Everyone needs that human to know that someone else cares about them, a card, a kind word, a hug, something. It's so important.
And listen, I think what happens too as we get older and we those of us who have children and those of us who don't, those of us who have careers, those of us who have taken non-traditional paths, all of these things, life gets busy, right? Like we just, over here I see my phone and calendar like silently just pinging away, right? And I think that's like the perfect, I should just turn it over. I'm going to turn it over so I can't see it. Um, but like I feel like our phones are like we have this instant access, and then we have these devices that are, reminding us every day of not only what we have to get done, but what we like forgot about yesterday. Or,
Yeah.
oh crap, I gotta vote, I gotta do this, all of those things. And part of what happens is it makes us and it's natural, we have to consider ourselves, like it's that put the oxygen mask on first before you help those in need next. You
Yes.
do have to provide for yourself. But what happens is when we get into that cycle, I think sometimes we forget to take a second that we don't exist with we exist within a community, whether we choose to connect with it or not. And sometimes you have to make an active attempt to re-engage and I think sometimes, and then you feel guilty. And I say, everybody forget the guilt. If you say you didn't, you haven't talked to this person, you haven't done that, I have to go out and do it. Don't beat yourself up. Just do it. Just take the first step. Like it, because you can't go back, but you can do it better today. And listen, I don't always want to do everything. But if I could get 65% of a day, I feel pretty good. And I think we're just hard on ourselves, and we have devices. And this time of year, I feel like we have a chance to trigger those memories and those connections. And I think that makes us want to connect more, right?
Yeah.
Like I just, and I think that's probably why, you miss people at this time of year. And I feel like there's some griefs too, and you miss way when you were a child and your grandparents. And, I was lucky I had most of my grandparents until I was in my late 30s, early 40s. And I'm luckier than most, but I still cry. Like I miss the crap out of them every single day.
Yeah.
But what a great way to remember there are people, you're part of something greater. And I just think if you have the means, whether that's to volunteer, the mental, intellectual capacity to pick up a phone and check on your neighbor, you have the wherewithal to just say hello, have a great day to somebody, or donate money, or be a philanthropist. you just take those steps and you do it.
Yeah.
And if you fail, you fail. And you get up and try it again. Do something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, exactly. And the pandemic, unfortunately, the pandemic kind of broke the connections for a while, which I think people, I know myself, I've been getting back out there, but like some people might still be a little bit hesitant, or things aren't as they were. But I mean, we do need to get back, because we need connections. We need people. We know we all do, and we all need to. If we can, like you said, if we can do, even if it's just a phone call to check on someone, we do need that. And speaking of community, I would like to talk a little bit about a little more about the space at Olive. If you could tell us what that is, how can people like utilize it? Because it's an actual space that people can rent, I believe, right?
Yes. So before the pandemic, so there's this, Meals on Wheels own this building. It was bought back in the very early 80s with support from the Weinberg Foundation. And over time, it's a building, it's a physical asset. It kind of deteriorated, and just through change of use and funding and all of that kind of stuff. Think about your own house and putting a water heater in. Imagine having 5 boilers. So, but I happen to, and I always say this is kind of karma, or whatever you believe in, divine, some type of unseen intervention is, my background is in development and construction and building buildings. And so I decided let's renovate this great piece of the first floor that decades ago was the old downtown senior center that wasn't in use any longer. And it was just basically empty space. So we renovated. We got this fabulous design, and we started the soft opening in late 2018, and then we began doing events. It's a multi-purpose event and catering space. We have our own catering menu. We have audio visual technology available, so speakers and microphones and sound systems, and we have decorations. We have wonderfully talented board members and staff, and we could fully decorate your event for you. You could do up to 220 people, and as little as, we have a dinner tonight for a wonderful community group, and it'll be a little less than 20 ladies will be sitting down to a buffet dinner, and they're very community. And so we're thrilled to host them, and we do offsite. And through that initiative, and unfortunately, we had a number of events booked for 2020, and then the world shut down. And, it's the pandemic, I think, outside of healthcare and emergency workers, we were Meals on Wheels. We never stopped operating. We worked 6 days a week. I did have to, we looked at sending some staff home, but, we were in there working and social distancing before masks were available, and it was dangerous, and it was stressful, and all of those things. And so it's taken quite some time to really say, when do we want to reopen? So I'm thrilled we're starting, some soft opening events that people came to us. But we're going to relaunch for the beginning of January of 2023. So we have this it's fundraising space and meeting space and banquet space. We've hosted baby showers and wedding showers and birthday parties, you name it. And it's a great neutral, right now it's all decorated in winter holiday, neutral winter holiday, lots of, flocking and fuzzy snow stuff on me every day. But, but this initiative, and what's great about it is, when you book an event, you hold an event, you purchase our catering services, that goes back into the core programming of Meals on Wheels. And that means we can leverage our private dollars and our contract dollars, and, it helps support our operation. We operate at a deficit every year. Unfortunately, funding and donations don't always keep up with the cost of goods and services. When we buy thousands of pounds of meat every week, thousands and pounds of vegetables every week, everything is freshly made. All of that is expensive. So the space of Olive allows us to leverage this asset that we have that's great location, great parking, and help support our operations and go back into our core programming. So
Yeah.
I love the space at Olive. I'm really excited that we're able to, we're still doing, we're not quite up to the 220 people events yet. Unfortunately, the COVID's a thing. We now have a flu. We're on our way to a little bit of a flu endemic. We've got another little nasty cold virus going around, but that 150, 100 person, we're back. And so it's exciting.
It's a really, I think it's a great inventive way to use space that you had and, to bring in some money. That's wonderful. And for anyone who's not from Scranton and may not, it's Space at Olive because it's, well, Wyoming and then the cross street is Olive. So that's
Right.
the name there, I'm guessing, right?
Well, that
Yeah.
was part of it. And we kept calling it the empty space. And then because my brain kind of works in odd ways sometimes, I'm like space. And so it's actually an acronym that says, and it means supporting partnership across community endeavors. So in other words, it's really supporting the idea of providing a space for community members and other profits that's affordable, that introduces them to our mission. It helps us support others' mission. And that's one of the greatest things. In our building, we rent, we're the landlord for the NEPA youth shelters after school program. We have the Scranton Fringe Festival. I personally am the president of the AFA Gallery Board of Directors. We work, I'm putting it out in the universe that we're looking at. I want the Space at Olive to become a First Friday venue, bring that, expand that footprint of downtown, support artists, bring people in. So that's kind of my whole thing is being the best neighbor you can be.
Yeah. And I think, well, you've got Danielle Fleming right next door practically, right? Notology,
Yes.
fragrances.
Oh
She
my
would love
God,
to see that extended.
I
I mean, she
know.
was in downtown. I love Danielle. I mean, so now she's right by you guys.
That is so exciting. And I have to say they did a beautiful job on that build out. And I have to say, because we're kind of in that, we're not in Pine Brook and we're in that extended 3-block, not in downtown, but we're not in Pine Brook. And I look at what UNC and, Megan and Andrew and Nada and Katie and Michael and everybody at Zumos and Catherine at National Bakery, everybody's doing a great job. And Don Mamano, the developer and property manager, is doing a great job in kind of our corridor and in Pine Brook and downtown, and really trying to really spur economic and development. And I love having Notology. Now, my husband and my wallet, maybe not so much.
How can you
who am I to judge,
resist?
right? Right. I don't judge, so
That's great.
yeah. So it's a great, and I love having Lackawanna College across the street, and it's really, you talked about earlier, and it's interesting. I really enjoy being a member of the Scranton community. I enjoy, very early on, somebody asked how I was going to manage a Lackawanna County building or agency when I lived in Luzerne County. Now that you know my background, where I lived in Baltimore and I worked in DC, and that's, and I've been all over, I kind of looked at them and said, I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to make a left. I'm going to make another left. Then there's going to be a third left. And then I'm pretty much just going to drive straight for 23 minutes.
I'm laughing because this is deja vu. I worked at Blue Cross of Northeastern Pennsylvania, which is now Highmark.
Yes.
It's Main Avenue. I live in North Scranton my whole life. And whenever I would talk to people, they go, you work all the way down there? And they'd say, what do you do in the winter? I go, I drive slower if there's snow, and that's about it. I bring a snack pack and cross
Right.
county lines, and it's all
I've got a
good.
coffee. But it's that's part of the quirkiness. And most of the time you just got to laugh about it. But on the other hands, I like to talk about it because we're all one. We're northeastern Pennsylvania. I just happen to be in very southwestern, at the border of Maryland, West Virginia this past weekend at a lovely resort property. And I was trying to explain to a dear friend and colleague and about like we don't go past State College. I said if you're going past State College, you have a destination. It's Chicago, it's Ohio, it's somewhere in Michigan. You're going to Pittsburgh to a Steelers game or a Pirates game. You're taking your college kid back to school because you won't let them take the car. I said, we go north and south. Like we don't go, and I think we have a little bit of that here too. Like why, but I like to remind everybody that we're all here. We're all Pennsylvania. We have a certain heart to us and grit and fight and I always say Gritty, the Flyers mascot is the Pennsylvania mascot. Like our grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents sacrificed a whole heck of a lot, and we've got to do our best, and we've got to be our best, and we've got to help our neighbors, however that is.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of, I live to make my grandparents proud of me, my grandmother's proud of me. And that's just kind of how I live my daily life.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful thing, attitude to have, and an inspiration to have, motivation too. But like you said, it's interesting you mentioned, and it's something we have to work on. We said this region, it's the counties, the separation. And like you said, we're all Northeast PA, and it's been there for a long time. I know many people have talked about it and are trying to erase that line, but for some reason we have that separation. Luzerne's here, Lackawanna's here, but we are all in the same region, and we should all want to make it better,
Right.
in every aspect, because it's where we live and we don't have to separate by county.
We really don't. We really don't. Everything is great. No, yes, it's really, it's a really special area, I think.
Yeah.
I think it, but it's quirky. It's quirky.
Yes. I think those of us who have lived here a long time are from here. We know that. Yes. And I'm okay with it. I still love this region, but yeah.
And then when I'm not okay with it, I just hibernate for a day or two.
There you go.
Yeah,
Reset.
I work from home. I work from home in isolation with my animals.
So in closing, as we wrap up, so I want to say for anyone who is listening, think of, and I will put this in the show notes, and when I promote the podcast, Giving Tuesday, put that on your calendar, and we'll talk about, I'll put the links out there. Check out Meals on Wheels of Northeastern Pennsylvania on Facebook, their website. If you have a need for an event space, think of Space at Olive. And of course, if people want to donate, can they drop off at the building, or no, if they wanted to give like
Absolutely.
blankets and things like that? Okay. And so
New unused soft blankets, toiletries, all new unused. Those, I really want word search. I want every client to get at least one this year. So, if you are listening to this, stop at your dollar store and pick up a couple and drop them off. Call the number on the door, and we'll be happy to come out and grab them from you.
That would be great. Yeah. And I know here's a shopping tip because when you said that, I was thinking Kohl's has some of the nicest, softest. I love them. Some of my favorite like blankets. And you get Kohl's Cash, you can use them there. There's always discounts. So that's another affordable way to get some
The other one
blankets.
is, you know who has really nice one? Ocean State Job Lots.
Oh, okay. Okay. So there you
Yeah.
go. Some affordable ways to donate. Yeah, that's
Yes,
great. Okay.
yes.
Anything else that we didn't talk about that you just want to make sure you either plug or something that you wanted to say before we close today?
No, thank you guys for listening. I talk a lot and but I thank everybody for listening. I thank you for having me. And thank Mary for introducing us. Mary is one of my favorite humans in the world. Um, she's fantastic. And I want to nominate her, guinea pig Jose for president.
Jose is very photogenic.
Isn't he? He's my favorite. And I feel like they post photos of Jose just for me, like in my brain, in my little self-centered Jose centric brain. I feel like all of his pictures are for me because he
They're
knows
all
that. Yeah,
like, this
because
is
he
for
knows I
Kristen.
love him. Yeah, he's
I,
posing for me.
I have to say they're pretty damn cute. I would have never been interested in those in guinea pigs, but when you see those photos, in fact,
Right.
I think it was Jose. Mary did a little photo shoot to promote my podcast, where one of my coffee mugs. Of course, I have it off camera, uncorked with Funny Wine Girl, and on the back it
Oh,
says,
I love it.
if it's morning, this must be coffee." And Jose gave it a plug. So
Oh, you are so lucky. I'm hoping that Mary's listening to this and then Jose does a whole campaign for Meals on Wheels. I'm just putting that out there. Can you see it? We could put him in a
Mhm.
little car and I just he can volunteer,
And Mary's got mad video editing skills. We did a show
right?
recently at the Axe Company in Scranton, and she did some nice video work for a promo for us. So I think, Mary, I know that you occasionally listen, you and Kat. So I
Yeah,
think you have a job to do.
right. I need an official mascot.
I could totally see Mary getting on that. I know
I know.
Mary likes to promote Jose too because he's so damn cute, you know?
He is. Oh my God. And when he dresses up, my favorite, I think, is St. Patrick's Day. I think those are like when he's in the little hat with the shamrocks. Oh my God. Just makes me happy. And you know what? That's what I want to leave with. I want everyone who's listening to encourage your friends and family and take a second for yourself. Just have a second, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of laughter and gratitude a day. And just even on the hardest day, think of something or look at something and see the beauty and just laugh and think of a Jose. Find your own Jose is my parting words.
Yes. And thank you so much, Kristen. Kristen Kozin from Meals on Wheels and Space at Olive. And I think that's a great space. Anyone who knows me knows that my business, Laugh to Live, I promote laughter and humor through laughter yoga and positivity. And that is a great way to end because even finding whatever it is in your day, you can always find something that's either humorous or joyful. When I'm out walking or running, I love saying hello to people, good morning. And I love that connection. If they just smile back or nod and say hello back, it's great. So find those moments in your day because they will make a
Yep,
difference.
they really
So
do.
they really do. So thank you to Kristen. Thank you, listeners. Coming up, we have some serious topics. I'll be talking to someone coming up, Brittany, who will be sharing her mental health story, story of her brother's suicide, heavy stuff, but things we need to talk about. And my friend Lisa, who travels with the clowning organization, Bringing Laughter. She was just in Morocco. So I can't wait to talk to her. She's a very interesting person who I look at her posts and I go, what is she up to now? So she'll be coming up in a couple weeks. So some interesting topics. And always, I like to say, I like to promote these fabulous women who have a lot of great things to say. Hopefully you'll be informed, inspired, and entertained. Look, get a couple laughs. And that makes me happy too. So thank you again for listening. As I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.